Hey everyone, welcome back to Fandom United. Geo here. I want to share my thoughts on Black Widow. I saw the movie last night with a couple of friends, and this will be a non-spoiler review in case you haven't seen it. Those of you who have been following my channel know how I felt about this movie happening in the first place. I thought it missed its window, and then the pandemic made things worse by further delaying the movie. But regardless, I went into this movie with the intention of having an open mind, leaving all my concerns at the door. And what I found was myself enjoying the movie, actually. It's not bad. It is not bad. Would I put it in the top 10 of MCU movies? Probably not. I'm going to let it sit for a little while longer. But as more time has passed in the last 24 hours and I've allowed this movie to sit, I find myself having slightly a little more positives. Again, this is non-spoiler, so I'll try my best to avoid major plot points. But let's start with the character herself, Natasha Romanoff. This is really a different side of the character that we're seeing as she confronts her past. In previous MCU movies, she's always been secretive, closed off. We've gotten hints of her past, whether it's interactions with Loki or her talks with Steve Rogers, as their bond, their relationship has grown over the movies. But this one, I'm surprised by just how much we dove into the character. We got some emotion, especially between herself and the characters that are her family. There was a lot of discomfort when she is confronting her past and having to deal with ramifications of her actions. She's being read her ledger. And yes, there is a lot of red on there. But at the end of the day, this is vintage Scarlett Johansson as Natasha Romanoff, Black Widow. She is just as dangerous as anybody in the movie. She's able to outwit, outsmart certain people. This is really her swan song. This is her send-off. And as a movie dedicated to the character, it's not bad. Since the early days of this movie's development, there was always an intent to introduce the Yelena character played by Florence Pugh. This movie's just as much her movie as it is Natasha Romanoff's movie, for better or worse. Florence Pugh is excellent as Yelena. She shows a lot of vulnerability throughout the movie, having to come to terms with her past and the revelations that she finds out. And as vulnerable as she is in this movie, she is also just as tough. She may not be an Avenger, but she definitely has a place in this world where she can go on these dangerous missions and hopefully make a difference in this world. There's a fight between the two characters early on in the movie, and it was definitely given some Jason Bourne type vibes, the way they're able to use their surroundings to their advantage. It's really two siblings with very similar fighting styles. Obviously, they both came from the Red Room, and Marvel obviously intends to make her a viable fill-in for Natasha Romanoff now that we know she is dead and no longer in the MCU, at least we think. And I gotta say, I want to see more of Florence Pugh as Yelena. I think she has a place in the MCU, and the way the movie ends, it definitely sets up, we already know this is not spoilers, it definitely sets up an exciting return in future MCU projects. Another highlight in the movie is David Harbour as the Red Guardian. He is a very prideful character, somebody who likes to remind everyone of the glory days of his heyday, a la Mr. Incredible. He's rough around the edges, but he's also soft, and especially soft when it comes to his daughters, Yelena and Natasha. There is heart in this movie, and a lot of it comes from his interactions with his family. As soft as he is also bruteful. This guy is strong, and David Harbour definitely lives up to the physicality of the character. A lot of fun moments with this character, a little bit overboard at times, but nevertheless, what a redemption for the actor who tried to deliver as a rebooted character of Hellboy. This movie also took its time exploring the family aspect that is Natasha's past. It's a very broken family. All of them are broken in their own ways, whether it's what they've done in their past, not so good deeds, trying to, cope with that. But in the end, with the way they all come together and mend some of those broken bonds was definitely a highlight. And I hinted at some negatives in this movie. One of them was the constant name drops of other MCU characters. Like, I get it. We know this movie is set in the MCU. We know Natasha Romanoff is an Avenger, but I felt like every scene or every other scene just kept reminding us of, Natasha, where she's at in the current, time of the MCU, her fallout with the Avengers, and so on and so forth. And for myself, I just got over it. It's like Natasha is so much more than just the Avengers, or at least this movie's trying to tell us. And it just got old for me. I talked about the humor. With Marvel, you're going to get humor. There's going to be always these one-liners that are dropped in to help ease the tension and remind you that this is a fun family movie. There was one moment that definitely got me. It's when Yelena makes fun of Natasha and how she always does this thing that she does whenever she's fighting. And I thought it was cool for the writers and of ScarJo to kind of poke fun and be self-aware. That I did enjoy. This marketing featured quite a bit of Taskmaster. And unfortunately, it falls into what I have a problem with in most, not all, but most MCU movies, and it's the villain. It's the villain, and it's part of that Marvel formula, okay, where they like to develop their heroes and, give them a lot of the weight as far as, the writing goes. And while they did try to do some things with Taskmaster, ultimately it just fell short for me. I get what they were trying to go for. There's a lot of parallels between this movie and The Winter Soldier. I just thought that The Winter Soldier did it a lot better. But who knows what the future holds? And that's all I will say. Other than that, it's nitpicks here and there. There's little CGI moments that don't really hold up. Again, Marvel likes to go big with their third acts. There was one sequence in particular where it really stuck out. It involves a rescue in the snow. I think you're going to find yourself surprised just how enjoyable this movie is, especially if you're somebody who thought this movie should have happened sooner. Now, on that note, I will say, just because we're getting this movie now doesn't mean it's Scarlett Johansson's fault. It's not director Kate Shortland's fault, who I thought did a good job in this movie. That's on Kevin Feige and Marvel Studios for not giving us this movie sooner. This is one of those times where I will be critical of Marvel. We should have gotten this movie sooner, especially now that we know what the story is, now that we've seen the movie. I think it would have been a lot better had it came out, even during its original release date. The fact that the pandemic had Disney, Marvel pushing this movie even further, I thought it maybe backfired on them a little bit. I get you want to watch it on the big screen, and that's great and all, but this movie should have came sooner. And that's not a criticism on ScarJo or the director. That's more on Kevin Feige and Marvel. Nevertheless, Scarlett Johansson got her movie, and I'm happy that she did because she's been a very important part of the MCU from the first time she appeared on screen in Iron Man 2. I will surprisingly recommend you go watch Black Widow. I think you'll have a good time. I think there's definitely some characters and some, relationships that you're going to find yourself invested in. So just go in and have fun and let me know what you think. My name is Gio from Fandom United. Thank you so much for joining me on this non-spoiler review for Black Widow. A thumbs up would be highly appreciated, and I invite you to subscribe as I continue doing movie reviews and daily news recaps. I do those Monday through Friday as long as there's enough content and enough topics that I want to talk about. But once again, thank you so much. You guys have fun watching Black Widow or whatever movies you watch in theaters. I will hopefully see you guys soon with more videos. Until then, take care.